Let's get ready to ramble. Okay, welcome to Raccoon Rambles. We're going to go out there tonight. We're going to feed the most adorable little raccoons you've ever seen. Maybe you've seen cuter. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about a very important subject. Have you ever found yourself getting caught in the cycle of getting more and more stuff, mindlessly accumulating more possessions and things, and it never being enough? We're going to talk about how to build up the superpower of letting go so you can experience the joy of letting go, decluttering our lives so we have more time and energy for the things that matter most, and so we can experience more mental peace. This is going to be a conversation called Lady Simplicity. It's all about befriending Lady Simplicity, living a simpler life so we can go deeper on the stuff that matters most. Let's start with a few reflection questions. Do you ever find yourself spending a lot of time, energy, and perhaps money focusing on storing, cleaning, and maintaining a lot of your stuff? How much time is spent on maintaining your stuff? Another thing, do you find yourself hanging on to stuff and objects out of guilt because of how much money you spent on it, perhaps, or obligation because somebody gave it to you, or fear that you might need it one day just in case? And the third question is, are there any rooms in your house, your living space, that feel a little cluttered and chaotic? Perhaps the office, your car, your closet, your bathroom, whatever. Do you have any living spaces that feel a little cluttered and chaotic? If so, this conversation is going to be for you. This is all about embracing Lady Simplicity, simplifying our lives so we can live better lives. Now, simplicity is all about lessening our needs and wants so we can be happier with less, which frees us up. You know, you might have heard of Feng Shui, which is just arranging things in your living space in a way that allows for harmonious flow of energy and health and happiness. You might have heard of the modern day minimalists who've been doing an excellent job on this topic with lectures and podcasts and books they've provided on this subject. So the first question I want to ask you is, how would your life look better with less? How would your life look better with less? Would it free up your time and energy to focus on the most important things in life? Could it make you more mentally tough? You might say that a person is mentally tough in proportion to the number of things they can live without. Could it give you more mental peace to just have everything be very clean and organized? Could you appreciate things more? If you have less, don't you appreciate more? Like a There's a saying that a beggar knows the true value of a tiny morsel of food, right? And also, couldn't it lessen our attachments so that we're more resilient in the face of loss if we practice the art of letting go? Let's talk about how our possessions are overrated. First of all, do they ever provide happiness in a long-lasting way? Without inner satisfaction, can any of these objects or stuff we get ever truly give us lasting happiness? Or does the joy it gives us when we get something new, does it just fade over time? And do these objects just degrade and fall apart and lose their value and everything else over time? You know, even rich people have killed themselves because all of their stuff did not bring them happiness. Also, we never truly own anything, do we? Just think about it. Everything you have right now, it's going to belong to somebody else someday, isn't it? Do you own anything that won't belong to somebody else one day? That which is truly yours can never be taken away. That which is truly yours can never be taken away. Everything's just on loan. It's like we're in a big toy room. We got house, spouse, career, kids, money, all of it's on loan. We got to give it up when we leave this toy room, the Creator's toy room one day. Also, all the stuff we have, it can disconnect us from other people, can't we? If we get too focused on stuff, we may start living from a selfish center. It may lead to hoarding and cheating. And how many wars have taken place because of greed? Also, when we really overvalue our physical possessions, it might ruin your reputation for common sense and wisdom. I remember meeting somebody once and they were very intellectual, very smart, but they had a sports car, and the sports car was the bane of their existence. The fees they had to pay, the repairs, they had to be careful where they parked it. They didn't want it to get scratched or damaged, and they could only ride it like a few times, and the amount of money they were paying for it was obscene. It might ruin your reputation for wisdom if you get too obsessed with things, knowing that they are all overrated, they all bring troubles and difficulties, and there's better things to focus on than things. Our stuff also impairs us. It's like we get possessed by our possessions. We become enslaved by them, don't we? We're worried about losing them, theft, constantly tending to them. There was one story I remember hearing about this really expensive antique teacup, and I think it was worth many, many thousands of dollars. And it was gifted to somebody. And they spent so much time and energy protecting that teacup. And one day it smashed and broke. Fell and smashed and broken. You can't imagine the freedom the person felt in that moment. They were finally released from that slavery to that luxury. Okay, so now let's go into practical steps for decluttering. Practical steps, okay? So we're going to start with the initiate level, really easy stuff. Here's a challenge for you to consider. I want you to consider decluttering your nightstand. It's an easy win. You probably have papers there, maybe mail, tissues, a book, glasses, a lamp, who knows? Now, the things that you know you're going to be using, like glasses, the current book you're reading, the lamp, you can keep them there. But let's get rid of some of the other stuff, the papers that you don't know what to do with, old tissues and different things like that. Just practice clearing off your nightstand so you can experience the peace and calm of waking up and being in an environment that's just more organized and more serene. The next challenge you might want to take on is decluttering your car. You might want to organize everything into 3 piles. Things you're going to keep, like you need some of those papers that come with the car, like the insurance and owner's manual and everything else. Things you might relocate. Maybe there's books and electronics and other items in your car that could be somewhere else, and things you're just going to get rid of. Now, one of the things is that a lot of people act like they're going to live out of their car, but even if you had to live out of the car, it would be way more chaotic to live out of the car with all that stuff in it. And the reason is, as the minimalists would say, that we have all these just-in-case items that you're hanging on to, just in case you need it one day. But then our life just gets chaotic with all these just-in-case items, and very rarely do we need them. So a key rule that the minimalists say is that if you can replace it for less than $20 in less than 20 minutes, get rid of it. Because over the next few decades of your life, the amount of money you actually have to spend for those just-in-case items will be so minimal to the gain you get in terms of the freedom and space. So go through those just-in-case items in your car and consider if you really need it. The third challenge would be to declutter your garage. Take everything out of the garage. That way you really have to think about things when you put it back in. And then maybe organize things into categories like sports equipment and tools and seasonal items. It's really funny because I know when people have done this, sometimes they realize they have duplicates of sports equipment. It's like you don't need 5 baseball bats or 7 hockey sticks and stuff like that. So it can really help you to declutter by getting rid of some of those duplicate items, maybe donating them or selling them. And another thing to consider is maybe getting storage containers and bins that are a little easier to look at, a little easier on the eyes than just having a bunch of random stuff on the shelves. So consider challenge number 3, decluttering the garage. Challenge number 4 would be to declutter your office. This is really important because you can really create an energizing place for you to work when you have less clutter around. And you probably have a whole bunch of papers that need to be dealt with, a whole bunch of mail and envelopes. But realize how physical clutter can lead to mental clutter. And it can add to the sense of overwhelm and stress when your space is a little chaotic. This can actually help you perform better in your mission, in your career, on the job, when you're doing the work that matters most here. The next challenge would be to declutter in the closet. Because our closets get full of stuff that they're beyond their expiry date with us. I mean, how many jackets do we really need? How many shoes do we really need? Take everything out. That way you really have to think about it before putting it back in. Ask yourself, have I used this item in the past 6 months? If not, consider letting it go. Maybe challenge yourself to get rid of 5 items from your closet. This can be clothes that doesn't fit properly anymore, or styles of clothing and accessories that you're not really into anymore. And just experience the joy of creating more space in your closet. The next location I'd encourage you to consider is your kitchen. You know what I'm talking about. Do you really need all that Tupperware? Sometimes it's good to have a Tupperware cleanse. I did this recently and I noticed there were several lids that didn't have Tupperware pieces they fit to. And I'm just hanging on to all these lids that don't belong anywhere. You might want to do a coupon cleanse because coupons just encourage you to spend more. If they have to tempt you and bribe you with a coupon, is it really worth getting? And you might want to consider getting rid of duplicate items, like how many cups and bowls do you really need at the end of the day? So consider getting rid of some of those duplicate items. Consider cleaning off the surfaces in the kitchen. Only have the essentials there that you might need. Coffee maker, toaster, a few items that you'll use regularly. Just consider cleansing the kitchen and the joy of doing a kitchen cleanse. That would be another one. Okay, now another area you might consider decluttering is the bathroom. Particularly all the expired cosmetics and makeups and medications and everything, or the ones that are just practically an empty bottle. Consider just cleaning all that junk out of there. Also, when it comes to linens, you're not running a hotel here. You might find you're overwhelmed with the amount of towels and hand towels and everything else. You may want to consider reducing that and gaining more space from that. And just clean off the surfaces. So instead of having all the bottles and things you need and all the items in the shower, just consider prioritizing the items you actually use regularly. If you're not using it regularly, put it away, perhaps in storage or something like that. Now the next one is a very important one. This was a big category for me. So category 8 is to consider doing a book purge. Okay, my situation with my books got so bad. I had a bookshelf that was created inside a closet, and the shelves actually literally fell apart because it couldn't handle the weight of all the books I had. So I had to do a purge. So I decided, unless I love a book, absolutely love it, or I reference it, I'm just going to donate it. And that brought so much freedom because the average 200-page book takes about 5 to 7 hours to read. That's for a 200-page book. How much time do we really have? Are you really going to read everything? Or are you just hanging on to it? Right? Something to think about. My rule generally is I decide that I'm only going to read every book once, and I make detailed notes knowing that I'm never going to come back to this book again. There's only been very few books in my life I've ever read that I would go back to again because I needed to. The Bhagavad Gita is one such book. Autobiography of a Yogi is one such book. The Bible is one such book. So there's a number of books that you might come back to again and again, but you don't really need to hang on to all of them. You may also want to consider getting rid of all those magazines and newspapers. I mean, what's the chance you're ever going to read through that stuff again? It can be very liberating to get rid of it. So these are the initiate level challenges. Now we're going to go on to the advanced level stuff. For the advanced level stuff, I'm going to encourage you, step 1, once you're ready, consider decluttering your schedule. Declutter your schedule because overcommitment can really be a burden. Just saying yes to everyone else. Learn the power of saying no so that you can say yes to the stuff that really matters in your life. I know other people expect you to give and do this and that all the time, but just drop the expectations of others. Realize that disappointment isn't the end of the world. People will get over it. You can just tell people, thanks, I'm not available. Thanks for thinking of me. If they ask you why you're not available, just say, like I said, I'm not available, but thanks for thinking of me. You don't have to give people a reason why, but just practice saying no. The next step in the advanced level category is to consider getting rid of some of the sentimental stuff. Now start easy with like holiday cards and letters and stuff. Keep the memories, not the stuff. That's important. Keep the memories, not the stuff. No. So, you know, if it's papers, you can digitize them. If there's something really important that you love, you can take a photo of it to remember it rather than keeping the actual physical item. I've done this. It actually works really well. It's much nicer to just have a photo and you can reflect when you see something rather than the physical object. You don't really need the physical object in many cases. Also, ask yourself, why are you hanging on to it? Why are you hanging on to it? Is it a sense of obligation? Is it a sense of guilt? Realize that whatever it is that you're hanging on to, you can give it a new purpose by giving it away to somebody who might appreciate it or donating it. You can give it a new purpose so it can add joy to somebody else's life as you make room in your own life for more energy, more time, more focus, and more growth. Now, at some point, you might even some of us might want to even consider downsizing our living space so that we can save on heating and air conditioning and property taxes and reduce the amount we got to clean and dust and everything else. And if we do that, just fear not, because if you do downsize and it doesn't work out, you can always upsize after the fact. There was a study done at some point, and they found that the average person only uses 40% of their living space or home, and the rest is just kind of like idle half the time. We're not even using the space we live in. And if you do downsize, prioritize functionality. So instead of having a regular ottoman, have one that doubles as storage space. You know, instead of having an extra bed, you might have for guests, you might have a couch that turns into a bed. Go vertical. So start to store things upwards with cabinets and cupboards so you don't have to take out floor space. Really go vertical in the storage. Digitize as much as you can all those important papers and documents. It's easier to just save them on a file on the computer than hanging on to all these files of papers. And consider downsizing your living space so that you can upsize your mental peace and give yourself that one precious commodity we never seem to have enough of these days, which is time. Time to spend in nature, and time to spend with loved ones, and time to spend creating new experiences. Okay, so for Lady Simplicity, there's some key mindset shifts that are really going to help you to succeed in this area. And number one is to change your definition of success. So instead of defining success by what you have and what you own, define success by your relationships, your experiences, and who you're becoming. Realize the trap of materialism, that it never delivers on its promise of giving us real and lasting happiness. It never delivers on its promise of being the answer to all the problems we have on the inside. The next step, step 2, Lady Simplicity mindset shift, is to practice contentment. practice appreciating more. If we just increase the appreciation for the things we already have, we won't need as much more. Imagine you were 10 times more grateful for the stuff you already have. Learn to appreciate the simple joys in life. You know, making a stranger smile, appreciating the sunrise or the moon, time out in nature, time with loved ones. And practice inward non-attachment to everything you have in life. This is very difficult, it's advanced, so I'm just going to let you know that it's not going to be easy. But practice inward non-attachment, that nothing here is ever truly ours. The house, it's going to be gone someday. The spouse, you know, at some point we'll be apart from them. You know, the career, it's not going to last forever. The money, it's going to come and go. Everything here in this material realm, it's the Creator's toy room. We're here for a time to play with all this stuff, but we got to give it back when we leave the toy room. So just enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's a gift. Well, we're here with all this stuff. Since it's going to be taken from us anyways, all our material possessions, why not make our lives an experiment with generosity? Think about it this way. When we give, it gives us joy to plan the act of giving. Number two, it gives us joy when we actually give. Number three, the recipient receives joy, and so does any witnesses. Number four, whenever any of us remember it, the act of giving, it brings us joy. Number five, others appreciate you more when you're generous. It's a heroic quality. Number six, you appreciate yourself more when you're generous. You like who you are more. It gives more purpose to your life. As Swami Vivekananda says, kill your selfishness if you want to be happy. Kill your selfishness if you want to be happy. Swami Vivekananda. I love that statement. It's so huge and so underrated. Because giving is its own reward. It pays in many different ways. And when we experience all these inner benefits of giving, it helps us physically. Because our psychology influences our physiology. Our thoughts and moods and emotions very much affect our physical body and our health. That's Sally Scarface over there. I knew her last year, and she was a normal young raccoon, and then when she showed up this year, she had this injury she had incurred in the winter somehow. Part of her snout got ripped off, and I'm not quite sure. But anyway, my heart goes out to her. And all our stuff here, all the clutter, we're going to lose it all anyway. You know? It's like a lot of us, we live like we're checking into a hotel room and we spend our whole time, our whole weekend decorating the hotel room when we have to check out at the end of the weekend. Doesn't make much sense, does it? The same thing goes for this material realm. We checked in. A lot of times we just spend time collecting our stuff and making it look nice here, and we got to check out eventually anyway. What's the point? Might there be something more to life? And if we stop being a possessed by our possessions? Might that free us up for the deeper thinking? As Paramahansa Yogananda says, a good recipe for happiness is simple living with high thinking. And he was the one that came up with this idea of lady simplicity, because Francis of Assisi had talked about lady poverty, and he preferred the term lady simplicity. So remember that you are indestructible consciousness, and you're only here for a time. And how can you make the best use of your time? Do you want to remember that you collected a bunch of stuff? Or are people more important than things? Are relationships more important? Is inner development more important? And figuring who we really are and why we're really here. And maybe if we declutter our lives, we will free ourselves up to explore some of those deeper mysteries of life that we're really here to solve. Okay? These raccoons are incredibly warm, by the way. I wish you could be here and pet them and feel how warm they are. What challenges seem appropriate for you? What challenges are you going to take on out of everything we talked about today? Let me know in the chat. Keep me updated. What parts did you like most about today's conversation? I know what you're going to say. Probably everyone's going to say we just loved the raccoons. And when it comes to material possessions and belongings and everything else, I want to ask you, if you were your own coach here today, what would you tell yourself you need to do next? What's in your best interest to do next? And then maybe consider taking your own advice. Love you forever. Hi, Sally.